The unseen conflict. The world appeared calm on the surface. Cities thrived, technology advanced, and humanity believed it understood everything that shaped its existence. Yet behind the veil of the physical realm, a hidden war raged. A war that began long before human history was written. It was a conflict not fought with weapons of metal or fire, but with will, faith, and light. The story begins with a young scholar named Isa. He lived in Cairo, surrounded by ancient libraries and mosques whose walls carried whispers of forgotten knowledge. Isa was not a religious teacher nor a philosopher. He was a researcher of ancient texts, fascinated by the unseen world. His father had once been an imam, but after his passing, Isa's curiosity turned from faith to understanding what lay beyond it. One night, as the call to prayer faded into the warm Egyptian air, Isa sat under a flickering lamp, studying a weathered manuscript he had found in a closed archive. The text was written in Arabic, mixed with symbols he could barely recognize. Its title translated roughly to "The Hidden War Between Light and Fire." He read aloud softly, translating each line. The manuscript spoke of two ancient creations, the angels, born from light, and the Jinn, born from smokeless fire. They were not myths, but beings of immense will, existing parallel to humans. It said that while humanity saw only its physical battles, the real war was being fought in unseen dimensions over the souls and destinies of men. As he read further, Isa noticed a recurring name in the margins, Harith al-Majar. The text claimed Harith was one of the few humans who had witnessed both sides, the armies of angels and the legions of Jinn. But something was odd. Each time the name appeared, the ink around it seemed darker, almost burnt. Isa rubbed his eyes, convincing himself it was just the age of the paper. The next evening, Isa took the manuscript to Sheikh Musa, a respected scholar known for his knowledge of ancient faiths. The old man listened patiently as Isa explained what he had found. "Sheikh, this text describes an unseen war. It speaks of angels who protect human guidance and Jinn who seek to corrupt it. It says humanity was never supposed to know." The sheikh looked at Isa gravely. "My son, there are truths in this world that even scholars fear to speak of. The Jinn are real, as mentioned in the Quran, but not all are evil. Still, some of them rebelled long ago, following the one who refused to bow." "You mean Iblis?" Isa said. "Yes," the sheikh replied. "But remember, this war is not fought as humans fight. It is fought through whispers, choices, and hearts. You study this too deeply and you may draw their attention." Isa hesitated, but could not stop. His curiosity had turned into something else, an inner calling. That night, strange things began happening. His lamp flickered without reason, and shadows moved when there was no wind. As he slept, Isa dreamed of a place filled with burning sands and towering beings made of fire. In the distance, figures of light descended from the sky, wings glowing with brilliance that blinded the darkness. The two forces clashed, not with weapons, but with surges of power that shook the very air. When he woke, Isa found markings on his wall, ancient symbols similar to those in the manuscript. His heart pounded. Was it possible that his studies had opened something unseen? Over the next days, his dreams grew stronger. He began hearing faint whispers in languages he did not understand. They told him to stop reading. They told him that knowledge of this war was forbidden. Seeking help, Isa returned to Sheikh Musa. The sheikh listened again, then said, "You have drawn their gaze. When you study what is hidden, the hidden begins to study you. What do I do now?" Isa asked. "You must protect your heart. Purify your intentions. If your search is for truth, the angels will guard you. But if it becomes for power, the fire will consume you." The sheikh then gave Isa a small parchment wrapped in cloth, inscribed with verses meant for protection. "Keep this with you when you study. It will remind the unseen that you seek only understanding." That night, Isa resumed his reading. As he reached the final pages, he discovered a prophecy. It spoke of an age when humanity's faith would weaken, when materialism would blind men to the unseen. Then the balance between angels and Jinn would break. The Jinn would seek dominion over the physical world once more, using humanity's ignorance as their weapon. Isa closed the manuscript, his mind spinning. He began connecting events in history, wars, corruption, sudden madness in rulers, movements of greed and destruction. Could these all be reflections of the unseen war the manuscript described? Days later, Isa received a message from a historian he had once corresponded with in Istanbul. The man had also been studying similar texts. His message was brief: "Stop reading. The Watchers are near. They know your name." That night, Isa heard a loud crash from his study. When he entered, the manuscript was gone. The lamp lay shattered, and in the faint moonlight, he saw a trace of smoke curling through the air. It smelled of burnt ink and old parchment. Then he heard it, a voice that was neither loud nor soft, but clear and echoing inside his mind. "You were not meant to see what binds the worlds, Isa ibn Musa." He turned, but saw no one. The air felt heavy, almost alive. "Who are you?" he whispered. "A witness to the war you read of. The conflict of light and fire still burns, unseen yet near. You humans walk upon the battlefield and do not know it." The voice faded. Isa felt both terrified and strangely compelled. The words of the sheikh echoed in his mind. "If your search is for truth, the angels will guard you." He fell to his knees, reciting prayers he had memorized since childhood. Slowly, the heaviness lifted. But as he looked out his window, far across the desert horizon, he thought he saw a faint shimmer in the air, like a veil moving between worlds. The next morning, Isa resolved to travel to Istanbul. If the historian who had warned him knew more, he needed to find him. Something deep inside told him that the lost manuscript was only the beginning. Unseen above him, two forces observed. One, a being of radiant light, wings like woven gold, watched with calm vigilance. The other, a shadow of ember and smoke, its eyes burning with silent fury. Between them stretched a tension older than time itself. The angels had taken note of Isa. The Jinn had as well. The war, hidden from humanity, had found its next witness. End of part 1. Would you like me to start part 2 now? The call of the unseen Isa arrived in Istanbul after 3 days of restless travel. The city, with its domes and minarets rising against the dawn, looked peaceful, yet his heart carried an unease that refused to leave. The historian who had sent the warning message was named Dr. Khalid Rahman, an expert in ancient civilizations and forgotten religions. Isa found his address written on an old letter, but when he reached the place, he discovered that Dr. Khalid's apartment had been sealed by the authorities 2 days earlier. A neighbor, an elderly man with kind eyes, told him that Dr. Khalid had disappeared without a trace. His books were taken away, and strange men had visited the building the night before his disappearance. Isa felt a chill run through him. Whatever Dr. Khalid had discovered, it was dangerous enough to make him vanish. He stood in the hallway, staring at the locked door, when a soft voice called behind him. "You are looking for Dr. Khalid, aren't you?" Isa turned to see a young woman holding a leather-bound notebook. She introduced herself as Amina, Dr. Khalid's assistant. Her face carried both fear and determination. Before he vanished, he told me that if anyone named Isa came looking, I should give him this, she said, handing Isa the notebook. It was old, filled with handwritten notes, maps, and strange symbols that looked familiar. Isa opened a page that spoke of a location deep in the mountains of eastern Turkey, a hidden monastery where monks once recorded encounters with beings of light and fire. Amina hesitated before speaking again. He said you were reading about the war between the angels and the Jinn. He believed it was not just a myth. He thought the conflict is intensifying again. Isa nodded. Then we must go there. Whatever he found, it might help us understand why this war is resurfacing. They set out the next morning. The journey was long, crossing through villages that seemed frozen in time. Along the way, Isa noticed subtle things. The wind would shift direction suddenly when he mentioned the word Jinn. At night, fires burned strangely blue, and whispers carried through the still air. Amina also began to have unsettling dreams. In one, she saw Dr. Khalid standing on a burning plain, calling her name as winged shapes fought above him. When they finally reached the foothills of Mount Nemrut, they met an old hermit who guided travelers toward the ruins. The man seemed to recognize Isa as soon as he saw him. "You are not the first to seek the truth of the unseen," he said. But few return unchanged. They followed him along a narrow path that wound through cliffs. The air grew colder and the atmosphere heavy. As they reached the ruins, they found inscriptions carved into the stone walls depicting beings with wings and others with flames rising from their forms. In the center stood a large archway half buried in rock. Above it were words in Aramaic that translated to, "Between light and fire lies the choice of man." Isa and Amina set up a small lamp and began studying the carvings. One section showed angels descending from the heavens carrying scrolls, while beneath them figures of fire reached upward as if trying to seize those scrolls. The next scene showed humans standing between them, blindfolded, unaware of the forces battling for their souls. Amina pointed to the bottom corner, where faint letters formed a sentence in Arabic. It said, "The time will come when the veil weakens, and the watchers shall walk among men once more." Suddenly the air shifted. Isa felt an intense pressure around him, as if the mountain itself was breathing. The lamp flickered, and for a brief moment he saw a shimmer of light moving across the walls. The carvings seemed to pulse like living veins of energy. Amina gasped as a symbol on the floor began to glow faintly. The hermit's voice trembled. "You have awakened the memory of this place. The angels remember, and so do their enemies." A sound unlike anything earthly echoed through the ruins, a low, vibrating hum that grew into a roar. Isa shielded his eyes as a burst of light flashed from the archway. When it faded, they saw the faint outline of a tall being standing before them, made of radiant light. Its form was both human and not, its presence overwhelming yet peaceful. Isa fell to his knees, speechless. Amina stood frozen. The being spoke not with words, but directly into their minds. "Fear not, seekers of truth. You have walked into the remnants of the first battle. The war between light and fire began long before your time, and it continues still. Humanity stands as both the cause and the prize." Isa's voice trembled. "Why was this war hidden from us? Why are humans caught between you and them?" "Because," the being answered, "you were given the power of choice. Each choice you make echoes beyond your world. Every act of justice strengthens the light. Every act of deceit feeds the fire. That is the war hidden from humanity, the war within its soul." Amina stepped forward. Dr. Khalid was searching for this truth. "Where is he now?" The being's light dimmed slightly. "He saw too much and was taken by those who dwell between. His heart was divided, and the fire claimed him." Before Isa could ask more, the ground shook violently. From behind the ruins, shadows erupted like a storm. Figures of smoke and flame rose, their forms twisting with anger. The hermit shouted a prayer as the radiant being raised its hands. Light burst forth, clashing with the darkness. Isa felt the shock of unseen energy pushing him backward. Amina screamed as the air filled with crackling heat. Through the chaos, Isa heard a voice whisper in his ear, cold and venomous. "You meddle with forces beyond your kind. Leave before the fire consumes you." Then everything went silent. When Isa opened his eyes, the ruins were quiet again. The archway was gone, and the hermit lay unconscious beside the stones. Amina sat trembling, clutching the notebook. The glowing symbols had vanished, and the mountain was still. Isa looked to the sky. A faint streak of light disappeared into the clouds. He knew now that what he had seen was not a dream. The hidden war was real. As they prepared to leave, the hermit awoke and spoke weakly. "The battle has begun again. The veil weakens, and soon the unseen will no longer remain unseen. Protect what you have learned, for both light and fire now know your names." That night, as Isa and Amina camped near the base of the mountain, he could not sleep. The words of the angel echoed in his mind. The war within the soul. He began to realize that this conflict was not about armies or conquest, but about the balance of good and evil within every human heart. Yet as the fire crackled beside them, a shadow moved beyond the light. Isa sensed eyes watching him from the darkness. The whispers returned, faint but familiar. They spoke not with anger, but with persuasion. "Join us, Isa, the light deceives. The fire offers knowledge without chains." Isa clenched his fists, his heart racing. He knew the Jinn had found him. The veil begins to break, the night was heavy with silence. Isa sat beside the dying fire, his thoughts tangled between fear and purpose. The whispers had not stopped since the mountain. They came like waves of wind, soft yet persistent, each time tempting him with promises of understanding. He knew they were not his imagination. The Jinn were testing him, their words wrapped around his mind like smoke, searching for weakness. Amina slept restlessly beside him, clutching Dr. Khalid's notebook to her chest. Isa looked at her and wondered if he had brought danger upon her. The angel had said humanity was both the cause and the prize, and now he understood what that meant. Every human heart was a battlefield. Every choice mattered. Before dawn, Isa rose to pray. He felt the same heaviness pressing on his chest. But as he whispered the words of his prayer, the air around him grew lighter. The whispers faded, replaced by an unfamiliar calm. When he finished, he turned to see Amina awake, watching him. "You feel it too, don't you?" she asked. Isa nodded. "They are near, always near. The line between our world and theirs is thinning." Amina opened the notebook again, turning to a section marked by Dr. Khalid himself. It contained rough sketches of strange symbols and locations across the Middle East, places where ancient civilizations had once built temples, mosques, or shrines. Each site had a note beside it mentioning disturbances, unexplained fires, or mass visions of light. At the top of the page, Dr. Khalid had written one chilling phrase: "When the seal weakens, the war will spill into sight." Isa's eyes stopped at one location circled in red ink. It was near Jerusalem, marked only with the word Dar al-Nur, the House of Light. "This must be where the veil is thinnest," Isa said. "If the Jinn seek to cross fully, it will happen there." Amina hesitated. "But if that is true, we cannot face them. We are only humans." Isa looked at her steadily. "Humans were chosen for a reason. We may be fragile, but we carry what neither light nor fire can create: free will." Their journey to Jerusalem was long and perilous. They passed through towns where strange events had begun to occur. People spoke of dreams filled with flames and wings, of sudden illnesses, of unseen shadows moving in daylight. Fear spread quietly, as if the world sensed what was coming but could not name it. In a small village near the Jordan Valley, Isa and Amina met a man named Yusuf who claimed to have seen an angel. His eyes were filled with awe and fear as he described a vision of a being made of light standing over a burning field. The angel had spoken one phrase before vanishing: "The barrier weakens." That night, while staying in Yusuf's home, Isa dreamed again. He found himself standing in a vast desert where the sky burned crimson. On one side stood ranks of shining figures, their forms like living stars. On the other side, a storm of fire and smoke swirled, forming monstrous shapes that growled and hissed. Between them, countless human figures stood blindfolded, unaware of the forces around them. A voice called to him from the light. "Isa ibn Musa, the war is not in the heavens alone. It moves within every soul. Choose your side, for neutrality is surrender." Isa awoke drenched in sweat. Amina was sitting up, frightened. "You were whispering in your sleep," she said. "You kept saying, 'the war within.'" He told her about the vision. And together they decided to continue toward the House of Light. Whatever awaited them there, Isa believed it would decide the fate of more than their own lives. When they reached Jerusalem, the city was alive with tension. The air felt charged, as if the unseen world had drawn closer. They found an old monastery on the outskirts, abandoned and covered in dust. The name carved into its arch matched Dr. Khalid's notes: Dar al-Nur. Inside, they discovered an altar surrounded by symbols similar to those on the mountain. In the center stood a cracked stone tablet covered in ancient script. Amina traced her fingers across the symbols, translating softly. "It says that long ago, angels sealed a gateway between realms using divine light. But the seal weakens when humanity forgets the truth. Isa stared at the tablet. Then it is our ignorance that feeds the darkness. Before he could say more, the temperature dropped sharply. A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing their lamps. The shadows lengthened, twisting unnaturally. From the darkness came a voice Isa recognized, the same one that had spoken to him in Cairo. "You have come far, Seeker. But knowledge always comes with a price." The air shimmered, and from the darkness emerged a figure cloaked in smoke. Its eyes glowed like burning coals, and its voice carried both seduction and rage. "I am Azazil," it said. "Once of the higher ranks, now ruler of the hidden legions. You bred what was forbidden, and now you stand before the gate you were never meant to find." Isa stepped forward, his fear buried under defiance. "If you are ruler of the Jinn, then tell me why you fight this endless war. What can you gain from destroying the balance?" Azazil's laughter filled the hall, shaking the walls. "Balance is a lie. Light enslaves, demanding obedience. Fire gives freedom, the power to choose without judgment. We only seek what was denied to us." Amina's voice trembled. "Freedom built on rebellion is not freedom, but pride." Azazil turned his gaze to her, and the shadows around him flared brighter. "You speak of pride, mortal, yet your kind corrupts creation in every breath. You burn forests, wage wars, and call it progress. You have already chosen the fire, you just do not see it." Isa clenched his fists. "We make mistakes, but we can still choose good. That is why the light still fights for us." The air cracked like thunder, and a burst of light filled the hall. The same radiant being Isa had seen on the mountain appeared again, wings spread wide. Its presence pushed back the darkness, forcing Azazil to retreat slightly. "Leave this place, deceiver," the angel's voice rang out. "The time for your dominion has not yet come." Azazil's form twisted, his fiery eyes narrowing. "You cannot stop what has already begun. The veil is breaking. Soon the unseen will walk the earth once more." With a roar, his form dissolved into smoke that vanished through the cracks in the stone walls. The angel turned to Isa and Amina. "You have done what few dared. You have seen both sides and still chosen truth. But the war moves faster than you know. The seal weakens with every act of despair and corruption. The only hope lies in awakening hearts before the fire crosses completely." Isa looked at the cracked tablet. "Can it be repaired?" The angel's light dimmed. "Only by faith. When mankind turns back to truth, the seal will strengthen again. But faith cannot be forced. It must rise from within." Amina knelt beside the tablet and whispered a prayer. Isa joined her, feeling a surge of warmth pass through the air. For a moment, the room glowed softly as if responding to their sincerity. But outside, thunder rumbled across the horizon, and the city lights flickered. The angel's voice faded into the wind. "Prepare yourselves. The final battle approaches, and the world will soon see what was hidden." As the light vanished, Isa and Amina stood in silence. Through a narrow window, Isa saw the storm clouds forming over the city. The veil between worlds was no longer holding. Humanity's disbelief had opened the door, and both angels and jinn were gathering for the confrontation that would soon begin. The final revelation. The storm rolled over Jerusalem like a living thing. Thunder roared through the night as Isa and Amina stood at the edge of the monastery ruins, staring at the horizon where lightning split the clouds into blinding streaks. The city below was restless. People gathered in the streets, frightened by strange lights flickering in the sky. Animals howled, and the air felt thick with something unseen, yet powerful. The veil was breaking, just as the angel had warned. Isa looked down at the cracked stone tablet. The faint glow from its surface pulsed in rhythm with the thunder. He understood now that the seal between realms was not just a physical barrier, but a spiritual one tied to the hearts of mankind. The more humans turned away from truth, the weaker it became. The jinn fed on that weakness, drawing closer with every act of despair and corruption. Amina placed her hand on Isa's shoulder. "The angel said the only way to restore the seal is through faith. But how can two people ignite belief in an entire world that has forgotten? Asa's gaze was distant. Maybe we do not need to convince the world. Maybe it starts with a few who still remember the light. Before Amina could respond, a deep tremor shook the ground. The monastery walls cracked, and a surge of heat swept through the air. From the sky, streaks of fire descended, crashing into the earth with deafening force. Isa shielded his eyes as one of the fiery shapes landed on the mountainside nearby. Through the flames rose figures of smoke and burning embers. The Jinn had crossed the veil. They moved like shadows with form, their bodies flickering between visibility and darkness. Their presence filled the air with dread. One of them stepped forward, its eyes glowing bright red. The age of men's ignorance has ended. The world of fire claims what was promised. Before Isa could speak, a beam of golden light shot from the clouds above. A radiant host descended, beings of pure brilliance, their wings spreading across the sky like dawn breaking through night. The clash of light and fire lit up the heavens. The war that had been hidden for centuries was now revealed. Amina fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the sight. Isa felt his body tremble, yet a strange calm settled within him. The angel who had appeared to him before descended once more, its form blazing with unearthly light. Isa ibn Musa, the time has come. The war of the unseen is no longer unseen. You must guard the seal, for the hearts of men will decide its fate. Isa looked at the angel. Tell me what to do. How can one man stand against what burns the skies? Not with strength, the angel replied, but with truth. You carry knowledge that was lost. Speak it. Let humanity remember who they are. The battle of faith is fought not with swords, but with hearts that refuse the fire's deception. The angel's words filled Isa's mind with clarity. He turned toward the city. Even as lightning flashed and shadows moved among the streets, he felt a pull inside his soul, a voice urging him to speak. He climbed to the highest point of the monastery ruins and called out, his voice echoing across the valley. People of the world, open your eyes. The war you were never told about is upon you. The battle is not for land or power, but for your souls. The angels fight to preserve your light. The Jinn seek to enslave your hearts with deceit. You are the deciding force. Your faith, your kindness, your truth, these are the weapons that hold the balance. Do not let fear blind you. Remember that light still watches over you. His words carried through the storm like ripples across water. In the city below, people stopped and listened. Some fell to their knees praying. Others raised their hands toward the sky, tears mixing with rain. For the first time in generations, hearts turned toward faith, and the power of belief began to rise like a wave. The angel lifted its hand, and Isa saw the cracked tablet below begin to glow again, brighter this time. A beam of white light shot upward, piercing the clouds. The Jinn screamed as the brilliance spread, searing through their smoky forms. The fire in the sky dimmed as the light pushed them back, sealing the breach they had forced open. Azazil appeared again, his form towering above the battlefield. His voice thundered with fury. You think your prayers can undo eternity? The hearts of men will always fall to pride. The fire will rise again. Isa faced him without fear. Perhaps, but for every heart that falls, another will rise. The light will never die, as long as even one soul remembers it. The angel descended beside Isa, wings outstretched, and the air trembled with power. Azazil roared, his body unraveling into flame and smoke that scattered into the wind. The storm slowly began to clear, leaving behind a sky streaked with dawn. Amina stood beside Isa, her face wet with rain and tears. It's over, she whispered. Isa shook his head softly. No, the war never ends. It only sleeps until mankind forgets again. The angel's voice echoed gently. You have done what you were chosen to do. The veil is restored. But remember, Isa, the balance must be guarded not by angels or jinn, but by those who carry both weakness and will. Humanity's faith is the seal that keeps the worlds apart. As the first rays of sunlight touched the city, the angel faded into the brightness, leaving behind a silence filled with peace. Isa looked at the horizon, where smoke and light still lingered like scars across the sky. In the following days, strange events ceased. The visions stopped and the whispers faded. People across the world spoke of a storm unlike any other, one that had felt alive, one that left them humbled. For most, it became a story of mystery, but for a few, the ones who had felt the truth within, it was a sign that the unseen world was real. Isa and Amina remained in Jerusalem for a time, recording everything they had witnessed. They compiled their notes, merging the writings of Dr. Khalid, the mountain inscriptions, and their own experiences. The final page carried a message written by Isa himself. The war between light and fire is not a myth. It lives within every soul that chooses between truth and temptation. When mankind forgets the unseen returns to remind them. Remember always that faith is not blindness, it is the strength that keeps the worlds from colliding. Years passed, and Isa grew older. Yet every dawn, as sunlight touched the city, he would look toward the horizon and whisper a quiet prayer of gratitude. The hidden war had revealed its face to him, and though he knew it might rise again, he also knew that the light would never be extinguished. Far beyond the realm of men, in a place where light and fire no longer met, a voice whispered through eternity, "The seal holds, for now." And somewhere unseen, the wings of angels stretched once more, watching, waiting, guarding humanity's fragile peace.